For us jungle mains, it has thankfully been a significant amount of time since we last saw massive jungle changes and overhauls. However, we have gotten a lot of little adjustments over the past season or so that have all added up to create a very different jungle, even from just last year. The dangerous thing is that because none of these changes were very significant by themselves, the overall state of the game has moved drastically while players have failed to adjust at the same rate. Today we're going to break down exactly how you need to change your thoughts about pathing to stay up to date and not fall behind without even realizing it.
And if you really want to path your way to ranking up, then you need to go to skillcap.com. We quite literally have 5 entire courses with over 60 videos just on pathing alone. Whether it's breaking down every meta jungle path in the game for every single champion, or teaching you how to farm up to twice as fast with our Clear Like a Challenger course. Check out skillcap.com after this, as there's no risk with our rank improvement guarantee. Alright, now let's get back into the guide.
To address why a vast majority of players hold beliefs about jungle that are now outdated, let's take a detour for a bit to talk about how things used to be, and show how quickly they can change. There have been times where being able to fight for a 2-minute crab at level 2 was an absolute necessity. It pushed champions that were weak in early skirmishes completely out of the meta, and it was dominated by champions like Camille and Xin Zhao. It even went so far to force laners to have insanely strong level 1s in order to get push priority to rotate right away. Getting crab meant you were insanely ahead of the enemy jungler, and because of this, the only real viable route was red straight to crab. As a correction to this, and as an attempt to shake things up, Riot delayed the spawn of Scuttle Crab from 2 minutes to 3:15. While this did alleviate the issue, they continued making more changes regarding Scuttle Crab, such as making the crab not just spawn on one side of the map, and then going further to adjust the amount of experience that it gave to be much lower. This created a lot of diversity within the game and was overall a lot of healthy changes in my opinion. However, the player base failed to adapt in one critical way. If we go look at the League of Legends wiki page for jungling and scroll down to the common jungle route section, we're going to see one of the lingering effects of a meta where there really was only one viable option. The fact that this section exists at all is something that I have an issue with. This lists out 13 steps and pre-plans the game out from before you even load in all the way up until level 6. This may have been necessary at some point, but no longer is. Yes, there were times where experience from camps was so nerfed that the only way to get a decent amount of XP was to get kills, and the only real route you saw was buff Gromp into a gank. There was also a time that camps hurt so badly that some champions were just strictly incapable of clearing certain ones until much later levels, shoehorning them into specific pathing. And of course, there were metas where you just had to go red to crab, like we talked about. However, Riot has taken lots of little measures to combat the idea that your champion determines the route that you do. Camp damage was nerfed across the board, making it so that it's easier for every champion to clear. Gromp now heals you upon kill, which is a more recent change than a lot of people actually seem to think. Kill XP has been drastically nerfed over the years, and so has sharing XP for pushing waves. Crab is worth less and less, and camp respawns are longer, meaning that you don't have to have a super quick clear and spam full clear to not fall behind by default anymore. Nor do you have to skirmish for double crab if you just can't win the fight early. The point that I'm getting at is that there used to be just a clear best route in a lot of cases. But in Season 12, and hopefully beyond, this just isn't the case anymore, and has turned an okay way of thinking about the game into a very dangerous one. The vast majority of junglers that I coach tend to pre-plan their routes and list off steps just like this, like the wiki page does. They tell me I'm just going to full clear and then look for a gank, or I'll get level 3 and go for a gank, something along those lines. But in a game where we have so many more options now than we used to have, if you think in steps like this, you've eliminated half of your options for absolutely no reason. Let's look at an example Smurf commentary that I played to show how this should be applied. I opt to start at my red in this game and clear down. In the end, I just full clear my jungle and end up doing all 6 camps.
While someone who flowcharted their decision making could end up getting to the exact same outcome by just following the wiki page, we did so in a very different way. Let me walk you through all of the decisions that I needed to make in order to arrive at this outcome. As I'm doing my red, I needed to think if a level 2 gank or adapting my pathing in any other way was a viable choice. From here, I have tons of options, like going to Krugs, going to Raptors, invading, running straight mid, and more. In this game, I didn't receive any extra information that would make any options stand out more than just doing Krugs to keep the option of a full clear open, but you have to be on the lookout. An example of this would be if my bot lane hard traded at level 1 during my red buff clear. In this situation, I would be incredibly likely to want to do Raptors to accelerate how fast I could get to bot side to potentially react to a play that is now more likely to happen. But why didn't I say at this point that I would do red Raptors Gromp and look for a bot gank? Because after Raptors, I will still have plenty of other options besides just going to the Gromp. The way you need to think about jungle is actually a series of branching decisions that need to be made. If you think in linear steps, you're essentially just making a decision further down the line with less information than you could have had if you had just waited to commit to it until later. If I did red Raptors and then started walking bot side, but my bot lane died as I was walking by mid, I probably wouldn't opt for Gromp anymore, and instead just choose to do Wolves. But if I lock in my decision earlier, I might end up making a very poor choice for the current game state. In a game of incomplete information like League, the information available, and consequently the decisions that become good, change over time. Which is why the most valuable thing you can do sometimes is simply delay your decisions. Mid is hard trading, so I could look for something after I do Raptors here. Wave doesn't look to be in a very good spot for that though. Notice how even though I mentioned looking for something mid, I don't go for it. And it's because of the information gathering that I was doing while clearing out my camp. Talon is playing further back and Lux's wave is pushing into him. It's unlikely that any gank will work here unless Talon just wants to die, so it's not really worth my time to go, at least not in the current game state. So I know I don't want to go mid, but I don't want to make a decision yet about exactly what I should do next. But why? Because by the time I get to my next thing, the game state is going to be completely different. A decision that seems best now could be the literal worst choice in less than a second from now with new information. I need to think about what my branching options are from here, which right now mostly consists of Wolves, a gank, or an invade. Of course there are more, but I'm picking between the ones that I feel are most viable at a given time. And what you'll notice when thinking of all of these options is that they share one common path that branches off at a certain point that I like to call a pivot point. I shouldn't pick between any of my options at my Raptors when I finish them because I can just use the walking time between them and the pivot point by my Wolves to kill time and delay information. That mid gank that didn't look possible earlier could be the best option by the time I get here, and then I can change my mind on it and go mid. This concept is very similar to how the weather forecast gets more accurate when it gets closer to the day you're trying to predict. You'll be able to make better decisions when you just don't try to make them too hastily with not enough info. In my actual clear, this ends up helping me as I get done with my Gromp and look bot to get information. We're level 4 here and they're still playing incredibly aggro. So I'm just gonna look for this. This looks like just a free double without me though. I can't count the number of times that low elo players will just miss out on a free gank exactly like this because they choose to full clear into Crab. Likely because they were planning on doing that since the start of the game and didn't adapt. Part of the reason that high elo junglers get fed so often in low elo is because they recognize plays and adjust pathing accordingly. They actually are fighting for push, so I'm gonna skip camps here and go Gromp. Either that or the enemy bot lane didn't fight for push, I don't really know which one it was. I just want to go right now. That's really good. Senna flashes forward. Jinx needs a flash out and heal. It's totally fine to view full clearing as the default template for what you should do for your first 6 steps of the game.
but only if you are constantly looking to change those 6 steps to something else at any given moment, and then be willing to change even that if new information presents itself. The name of the game for Season 12 is flexibility, and learning how to read the map in order to adjust pathing. It is by far the most valuable skill for junglers to acquire, yet the one that seems to be the most unknown to players. If you stop flowcharting your routes and instead look to consider every route as an option in a bag of tricks, you'll be unpredictable and also more effective.
Alright, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. We offer a 5-division rank up guarantee and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week with over 2,000 guides curated into over 270 courses. No one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO hell over 1,100 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all your questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month to improve fast and get the rank you've always wanted. Link in the description below.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.